listening to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Well, hello.
Hey.
I don't even know where to start, but let's start with arguably the most important thing, which is happy release day of Tortured Poets Society for all of those. Department. I just said society because I was thinking of the Dead Poets Society. The Tortured Poets Department. To all who celebrate, which would be me for sure.
All of our Swifties out there.
Oh my God. I'm so excited. At this very moment, I'm probably like knee deep in my third listen. I can't wait. Did you know that track 5, which is always, Kristen is not up on her lore the way that I am about pretty much anything.
I'm a more casual Swiftie.
That's okay. Yeah. We'll forgive her. She's more casual about pretty much everying than me, though.
It's true. I'm not obsessive,
intensive
as much.
Yeah,
in life.
I'm not going to take that personally.
I'm
not obsessive like you.
I don't think it's an insult. It's just an observation.
It is. It's fine. I'm not bothered by it. It's not untrue. But on every album, her track 5, and she has admitted to this, is her like most vulnerable track. And so her track 5 is called So Long London. Okay. And it's 9.5 minutes.
What? Okay.
Get ready for All Too Well Part 2. I think I'm so excited. So that's thing number 1. Okay.
Thing number 2 is sorry.
Is that thing number 2? Because I actually think that was thing number 3.
Oh, okay. You've got an order in your head. Let's go.
Kind of. Well, the thing number 2 was I wanted to tell people before we got like too carried away with our own updates
which we can do.
Yeah, which we can do and will do. That we are doing another round of coaching enrollment and it starts today.
Well, yes, that is probably an important one to start with.
Yeah. So, for those of you, most of you already know because you're regular listeners. If you're not, if you happen to be newer, then a couple to 2 to 3 times a year, it's sort of fly by the seat of our pants at this point. We specifically have like a period of time. It's 2 weeks. So May 3rd, I think, whatever, 2 Fridays from now will be when the window closes, where we specifically take on a handful. And I do mean a handful because Kristen and I like don't have a ton of bandwidth. So it's typically like, I don't know, 10-ish people who are interested in working with us one-on-one. And I'm sure as we continue through this episode, we'll talk more during or maybe at the end for sure about like, how to know if this is something that you might need. But to be honest, like, don't you already kind of know whether you need it or not?
We can talk more about what it entails, what you can expect, because if you're listening to this podcast and you love everything we talk about, then you probably already know this is your jam. This is the kind of stuff you love to dig into. This is the deep questions and deep conversations that you want to explore to clarify what do you really want and where are you really going, and like all, you know why you're here, and why you're here is probably also why you might want to do coaching, but you might have some questions about how does it work, or what would you expect of me, or what could I expect of you, and all of that. So we can get into some of the more nitty gritty before we wrap up.
Okay, but let me just reflect that over the years, I feel like why people come to us for coaching has been changing in a direction I'm really fond of. So more than ever, in the last like year or two, I've had people come to me and say, yeah, I want a new career. Maybe. I don't know. But really, I just want to like feel better. And I just want my whole life to be more satisfying and fulfilling. And wow, I listened to everything you said about, or everything you guys keep talking about when it comes to like attachment trauma and like
feminine energy and
yeah, that kind of, yes, so much. And like having, I don't know, being like fed up with the system and wanting to find a way to like participate in it in a way that feels healthy. It's gotten to be so much deeper and more broad than just your career.
Which is our favorite kind of coaching anyway. So bring it on.
Typically seen through the lens of your career. It's typically like, okay, but it doesn't have to be. But a lot of the time it's like, well, I think I like what I'm doing, but I don't know. Or I don't really think I like what I'm doing. But also, what if there's a lot that's off in my personal life, or a lot of just questions I don't have answers to? And if I understood like more about what I really want and what is going to help me live a life that feels really grounded and satisfying in a well-rounded way, maybe I wouldn't care so much about my career. Like I had someone recently ask, I don't even know how much I do care about my career, and I don't know how to figure that out. And I'm like, that's a great question to answer in coaching. Is like, how much do I actually even care about this? How much does it matter? How much should my life and my decisions revolve around this? Like, these are the type of questions we're now like digging into in coaching, and I really like it.
Years ago, we were more focused truly on finding work that you were more passionate about. Yeah. And now I think it's become clear to us and the people who follow us and come to us that feeling dissatisfied or maybe even just kind of restless in your career is probably a sign that you're feeling that in life in general.
Probably not about your career.
And it's most obvious to pinpoint in your career, but it's spilling out into everything else. And so it's the diving in point, but it is not the extent of what we get into.
Mm-mm. So
yeah, if you're feeling restless, if you're feeling like things are maybe fine or maybe they're not fine, but I know they could be a lot better, but I don't know how to get there. I don't even know what that would look like. I don't know what I should be doing different. I don't know how to get out of my own way. Any of those questions, those are clear signs that coaching is probably exactly what you need to jumpstart a new phase of life that you're ready for, but you just don't know how to bridge that gap.
A new timeline. So this will be going on for 2 weeks. However, it is sort of like a little bit of a first come, first serve because of our limited time and capacity. So that means that the sooner you fill out a form and tell us you want to talk about it, the better, because then you'll, be ahead of people who listen to this 2 weeks from now.
Because we can and do fill up. And once we're filled up, doesn't mean you don't get to work with us, but it means you might have to wait.
Wait a while. So there is a form in the show notes, or you can just go to clarityonfire.com/coaching and you can read. I would recommend just like reading that page. Definitely, scroll through it, look at the price chart too. We do have a couple of options. Like we have like 2 different sort of tiers of coaching, and we can walk you through in a conversation what probably makes the most sense for you once we like talk to you and hear about your situation. And like, I don't know, it just should be obvious by now that we're just like so uninterested in convincing you to do something. Like I have to want to show up and talk to that person that day. And if they don't want to be there, why the hell would I want to be there? So like you have to want to do it, and it has to be your decision. And I'm just here to facilitate whether or not that is the right call for you. And Kristen and
if you're in, we're all in. But if you're not in, we're not going to convince you to be in. So we say that because we don't. I know sometimes when you get on a call with somebody, you feel like they're trying to sell you something. And then you're like, do I even really want this? Or are they just convincing me?
Sometimes I'm trying to do the reverse.
That's definitely. Well, if it's clear that it's just not the right time for you, or it's not the right thing for you at this point, we are not going to convince you. We want you to get the right option because it's not a win-win if you're doing something with us for months on end, that is not a good fit all around. So we're here just to help you figure out, is this right?
I just feel like in a world of influencers, people are like baffled by people who just like have integrity. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
I'm like,
that's why we like to share our prices on the site too. We don't want to surprise you with them. Like, we just want you to know what you're getting into from the beginning.
It's not cheap, and I'm not going to pretend it's not, but that's because like, this is how, do you know how expensive it is to run a business and live? Oh my God. You know, and also it's a big commitment. It's a lot of work to be someone's coach. It's more than just that hour that you are talking to them every week. There's so much that goes into like preparing for a call and reading emails and responding in a thoughtful way. And
not to mention the
content they get access to,
the impact that this kind of an experience has on your life. I mean, I have had people email me years after coaching to say, our work together completely changed the trajectory of my life. Like, I would never have met my spouse. I never would be living where I'm living.
Right.
I never would be in this kind of work or starting the business that I started if we hadn't worked together. So, I mean, it's not like a meal plan service where you eat some good meals for a few months and then as soon as you stop, that's it. You know what I mean? It's like your life is going to look different afterwards. So it's going to be a commitment of time and money and resources and energy, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah. So, okay, we can talk more about some of the other aspects of, I don't know, coaching as we wrap up this conversation, but let's get to thing number 3.
Before we even get into the actual
I don't understand real content to talk about. So there's a thing number 4.
There is a thing number 4, which is today's side chat.
Yeah, but I think thing number 3 is going to like bleed into thing number 4. So as you might have noticed, we didn't have a new episode last week, which is very abnormal. Like, if we're not on a hiatus, then I'm publishing episodes every Friday without fail. And I did not publish. I say I because, let's be honest, I'm the one who's maintaining the
podcast schedule
and calendar and content ideas and everything like that. And Kristen just happily shows up to record them. And that day she's like, what are we talking about? And I tell her.
Works for us.
And that works for us. So anyway, I did not publish an episode last week. Well, it was also supposed to be my interview that I was doing with a normal person, which we will be doing. We're just doing it in May instead of April. But life just got out of hand for both of us. So I figured it might be time for a life update, which it's been 3 months, I guess, since they heard our last sort of major life updates when we came back from our hiatus.
Okay, yeah.
And I informed people, like, you know,
what's going on
about Joseph, and, you know, you also told them about your coffee business and the dog. And so why don't we start there with the dog?
There. Well, I'm not going to get into why March was just a shit month for me. It was pretty, to be honest. It was
pretty low. Maybe the lowest, I don't know, maybe the lowest month you've had ever.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And it was like, let's just pile it all on in 1 month.
Yeah.
And just like a month of grief. And I'm hoping now
that the eclipse is past.
Yeah. Maybe we're just building up to that. And now
fresh start. Read your chart.
I should have. I really still can, but
just validate all of the storm that you went through.
No, I'm not going to get into all of why March was just horrible. But one story that I feel like I should share, because you've been riding along with me for this one, is I told everyone that I had 2 dogs, and one was very sick. And back in November, we found out that she had stage 4 kidney disease. So she wasn't even supposed to live through the new year. Like, her getting to 2024 was going to be a stretch. Amazingly, she was going, I won't say going strong, but she was hanging in there for months longer than expected.
Yeah.
Preemptively, my husband and I were like, well, we're a 2-dog family now. And our other dog, his name is Robert. Robert was going to be devastated to be alone. So preemptively, we're like, we need to get him a friend. And also we need, somebody to help through the grief. So we got a golden retriever puppy.
Well, he's how old is he now?
Now he is going on 10 months. Okay. So we didn't get him as a teeny puppy. We got him when he was 7 months, thinking Georgia, our dog who was sick, was not going to be around for much longer. they ended up having 2 months of overlap, which was honestly chaos.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful that we had that time. But she did pass about 2.5 weeks ago. So that was horrible. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm going to start crying. But it was actually, in retrospect, kind of a beautiful send-off. Everything kind of lined up that day for her to have like
the most happening, and you got to like
perfect last day. She had to have people come over and celebrate her, and it was probably a better send-off than most humans have, to be honest. Like, I told Rachel later, I was like, I hope I have such a lovely send-off whenever I depart this earth. So, it was as positive as something horrible like that can be. So now we're down to 2. We have the 2 boys, Rhett, the new guy.
The new guy.
The new guy. And Robert, they're constantly doing the boy thing of like wrestling and fighting over toys and chasing each other and competitive. And it's like having 2 toddler twin boys at the house constantly.
I think it's probably less chaotic than that.
A little less, but there's more teeth than normal toddlers.
More teeth.
It's crazy, but it's fun, and I am glad that we got the little guy, who's actually bigger than his older brother. But I'm glad we got him when we did, because it's hard to be sad with a puppy in the house, just constantly right next to you, licking you, begging you for attention.
And it's so nice,
cuddling up on you
when they're puppies, that they have nothing wrong with them. Now that I have like a 12-year-old dog, and she just has so many issues now. I'm like, oh yeah, remember when she was like 2 and had no problems?
I know. And honestly, there was such a contrast. So when Georgia was with us, and then we also had Rhett, it was so weird to see this perfect, healthy, vital, vibrant little guy. And then in contrast, it showed just how sick she was, because she was really struggling at the end there. So anyway, that chapter has very sadly closed. But she's still with us in spirit.
Oh, wait, you saw a song. You have to share about that.
I do. Oh my gosh. So, I saw multiple signs on her last day, but then the next morning I was just a wreck after she was gone. And I told James, my husband, I was like, I need another sign. He's like, you mean all the signs from yesterday weren't enough? And I was like, no, I need another sign. So the next day, I won't give the whole crazy lead up story, but essentially,
you asked for a sign.
We were out. Yeah, I asked for a sign. We were out at lunch because I needed to get out of the house because I was just very sad. And this little girl is sitting with her mom, like, I don't know, not even 10 feet away, and is drawing a little picture. And at one point, she holds up the picture to show her mom. Not kidding you, it was a Georgia dog. It was a Bernese Mountain Dog that she had just drawn a picture of to show her mom, and held it up. And James and I look at it, we're like, is that real? That was just...
She must have been a good artist.
I mean,
a 10-year-old to draw a recognizable breed of dog.
It was a cartoony dog, but it was like, it had her markings, you know, it was... Did she know it was a Bernese Mountain Dog? Probably not. She was just drawing a puppy face, but it had like all the coloring, all the markings. It looked like her face, to the point that James and I were both like, what? Is that happening right there? So I was like, well, I can't deny that. No. That's my sign, and I accept it. And now I know she's letting me know from the other side, I'm good. I'm happy. No more pain. So that was actually very comforting. Okay.
Yeah.
Not a very upbeat update, but
not all updates have to be upbeat.
You have your share of updates.
Yeah. So we're currently doing this. Okay. Spoiler alert. We're currently back to where we were 2 years ago, but not
physically. We're
back to where we were 2 years ago. Emotionally, mentally, we're not. But we're actually in my parents' house right now, in the little children's room of my parents' house, where we were recording episodes for the first, chunk of 2022 when I was here after my condo flooded, because I am selling my condo. And so I moved like 2 days ago. I'm not gonna, like you, I'm not gonna get into the entire backstory of like why I came to this decision, but I was like, this is the right time to sell. It's like the right time of year to sell a condo. I know for a fact I don't want to keep it for another, like to wait until, the market's hot next April or May. I know. Don't want to do that. That's completely unnecessary. And so it's like kind of like now, because it was kind of like a now or never. Well, not never, but like now or seemingly never, because a year feels like too long to hold on to a place that you're not even there like a lot of the time anymore. Right. I mean, not a lot, but like there's like a full, like if you think about it, there's like a full week every month that I'm not even in my condo. And I'm like, I'm paying a mortgage on a place that I'm not even like fully utilizing at this point. So why?
And that time's going to get less and less that you spend there anyway. So
for that and other reasons, I was like, I think it's just time. And then of course, I was kind of, I've been debating it for a long time. Like I've been debating that since well before I even met Joseph. Like, I feel like, I feel like this place is just
has served its purpose.
And I'm like, kind of been waiting on like a sign that it was time to leave. And then like, of course, before I made the decision, I had like multiple incidents happen, like nothing major, but like
just clarifying,
just like a plumbing incident. And then like, there's like an AC incident. And I was like, I think it's telling me to leave. Like, it's like, you're no longer, I mean, like, it's kind of like, no offense, but you're no longer welcome here. Like you can go, right? Like, let it serve a purpose for somebody else. And so I felt good about that decision. And so I'm putting it on the market. So this past weekend, I put most of my big stuff, and by I mean me, my dad, Joseph. My mom didn't really help. She just took care of the dog while we did that. It is a help. Yeah, she took some crap in her car and the dog and then went back to her house. And we put all of my big stuff, like my couch and my bookshelves and desk and that type of stuff, in storage. And I brought some stuff to my parents' house. And then I also filmed the entire contents of my kitchen are now at Joseph's house.
Because there was space for it? Was his kitchen that bare?
Well,
or did you kick some of his stuff out?
Not yet, but it will. No, but I was like, do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. Like a nice set of mixing bowls? No. Like he definitely doesn't have a juicer or a Vitamix. And I was like, those aren't going to storage. No. You're getting those. Like I'm bringing my steam up and my nice vacuum so I can use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ultimate intent is a little later this summer, probably. I'm going to complete the final leg of my move and take my big stuff out of storage and actually relocate to, I guess we can say where he lives, Pennsylvania. It's a large state. Which is, I've literally, so it's like, it's cool. It's a little stressful. It's also a little bit like, I don't know. I have a hard time sometimes like accessing the past version of me who would have been like, wait, all of that stuff that you wanted to happen actually is unfolding. And because it just feels like normal life to me now. Mm-hmm. But as I was cleaning my condo, I was like literally 6 hours on Sunday by myself of just like deep cleaning, like getting every mark off the wall, you know, and like,
ready to sell,
cleaning the baseboards of the entire place, right? Like all that little shit I was doing for hours and hours and hours and hours on Sunday. And as I was doing that, I was listening to music. I didn't want to listen to podcasts, you know, I just kind of wanted to process, and I was crying, but not in a bad way, like in a processing, just releasing emotions kind of a way. And I felt like I actually had one of those moments where I was able to be like, whoa, this is a big change.
This is happening.
This is very different than like even where I was, I don't know, like 8 months ago or a year ago for sure, right? Like just completely different. And it's all happening seemingly. What's weird is that if you zoom out, anyone would say, oh, this is all happening very rapidly, but it hasn't felt rapid at all. Like it's felt like normal paced to me, even though it's like, wait, like,
well, that's how you know it's the right
it's
pace.
aligned, right? It's not like it's not like so fast that it's out of control. It doesn't feel like that at all. It just feels like there's no speed bumps.
Yeah, just
right?
Natural.
Yeah.
Organic.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, but you literally only met this person like 8 months ago. And I'm like, no, I've definitely known this person like my whole life.
Yeah.
Basically. And like, I mean, he has my Vitamix now, so that's that. Yeah, he has like 5 tubs, 5 like big plastic storage tubs of my kitchen shit. So, and yeah, I told him don't unpack them because I don't.
You want to unpack them.
Well, and where do they go? Because like
exactly,
I don't need all of this stuff all the time, and like you have shit that you definitely probably is like, just needs to go. We have like walked through his house and been like, what can go in the yard sale later this summer? Because where are you going to put all of my stuff? Because like, I'm not getting rid of some of this stuff.
You have to get rid of some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's happening. So I'm in this weird limbo where I'm not really in either place permanently. And I have reasons for that I'm also not going to get into. It really has more to do with just, I felt incredibly stressed by the idea of packing up my entire life and all of my stuff and going to his house when his house wasn't like ready to accommodate all of my shit.
And you don't need to.
And I don't need to.
You can make it feel less stressful by just...
I can take it slower and like more measured and like, you know, actually like do it with intent rather than just in a chaotic fashion. And that felt easier for me to process, which actually I'm proud of myself because there's probably a past version of me who would have just been like pedal to the metal, like just throw yourself into chaos. And I'm like, no. And it has nothing to do with like me feeling doubtful about my choices. It's really just like, this is what's best for my nervous system. Literally.
Yeah. We could do slow and steady, or we could do crazy and chaotic.
And I'm not doing crazy and chaotic. Mm-hmm. I also don't want to put you through crazy and chaotic because I know that he would like, because he's struggles with perfectionism and he would be, you know, I'm like, you're going to want it to be just so. And I'm like, you can't make it just so in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to need time to get rid of shit and, you know, organize shit. And I'm going to need to help you do that. So why put that kind of strain and pressure and stress on yourself unnecessarily? Mm-hmm. So I'm sort of splitting my time between my parents' house in Virginia and his place in Pennsylvania, which is for just like a few months is my intent, which I can do. Having a light at the end of the tunnel is so necessary for things like this. Like if it's indefinite, I think that's when it gets out of control.
And built-in breaks. You're not here.
No, I'm here half the time.
All the time. Right.
Yeah. Of course, the biggest issue is going to be convincing my dad to let the dog live. And he literally said when he like knew that I had a boyfriend and that boyfriend lived in Pennsylvania, he was like, Scarlett is a Southerner and a Southerner she shall remain. She is not to cross the Mason-Dixon line.
For those of you who don't know, I know we've said it before, but for those of you who don't understand this dynamic, Scarlett and Rachel's dad are soulmates. Like I have never seen that kind of a bond between a human and an animal, and he's not even her owner. Like,
no,
well, I mean, no offense, Rachel, but
no,
you don't have that same kind of bond.
No, I'm her nanny, and he's her person, and that's how it is.
I even say because she knows him as Daddy, right?
I mean, that's what she
doesn't know him as his actual name.
No, we don't really call him anything to her.
But she knows when you're talking about him, and it's like they have this weird. She knows when he's going to come over, even when you don't tell her.
Yeah.
They have this weird soul bond.
They do.
They're inseparable. And so the fact that they're going to be separated by state lines is going to be very hard for both of them.
I know. And I laughed at him because earlier this week, my mom's out of town right now. And so it's just me and him, which has been interesting, but mostly fine. And he was like, well, what have you got planned this week? And I'm like telling him, and he's like, well, okay, I got to do this and this and this. And I'm not a dog babysitter, right? And I'm like,
that's funny.
I was like, yeah, I'm not like, I'm here. So like, I can take care of her.
As if it's a burden for him. He loves it.
And then literally then I was like, and then I was thinking about taking her to Pennsylvania with me this weekend. And he's like, no. And I was like, you literally just said you're not a dog babysitter.
So great.
Like, okay.
Oh man.
Fine.
That's going to be hard for them.
Yeah. I mean, I'll literally have to arrange like a custody, like a split. I genuinely am going to have to like have like visitation and like split custody arrangement or something. I mean, it will be heart-wrenching.
Design a contract for you both to sign.
I'm not doing that. So yeah.
So yeah, there's been a lot going on.
There's a lot. So that would explain why I was literally in the thick of my moving week when I was supposed to be recording that episode. And I was like, I just can't. It's too much. It's too much. And there's also no point to put, again, that level of strain and pressure and throw myself into like nervous system dysregulation. And so why do that if you don't have to do that to yourself?
One of the beauties of having your own business is that you can flex a bit as life requires more or less of you.
But I also think that's what we should be doing even if we don't have our own business.
Absolutely. It's just a little easier because you don't have to defend your decisions to anybody. But I agree. That should be how work is. It should flex with your phases of life. But again, we thankfully have the luxury to do that because we get to set our own schedule.
So on the point of work flexing with our lives, I'd like to get to thing number 4. Finally. Which is, I might have to pull this up on my computer which is me. I don't know how I'm going to like talk into it while looking at my computer. Hold up. I'm not editing this out. I don't care. All right. I had a question from a client recently that I was like, this would make a good side chat. And I also just feel like it's really relevant to my own experience right now. So I'm going to share the question and then Kristen and I are going to riff about it for a hot minute. She asked me if it's okay not to have a goal or a vision. Like, when is it okay? Because obviously sometimes it probably is necessary. And then there are times when like, I think she's at a phase of life where she's realizing it might be okay sometimes not to have one. But when is it okay not to have one? And is my desire to have a goal at all times part of my addiction to productivity and like need to achieve, which sort of was programmed into me, which a lot of us can relate to. She said, I feel directionless and I don't know if that's okay or something I should be worried about. And I just love that because I think that's something that a lot of us can probably relate to here and there.
Absolutely. I feel like the conventional wisdom is you always have to have, I won't even say a goal. I would say a bunch of goals. You're supposed to have goals in your career and in your health and in your relationships and in your whatever. You're always supposed to be striving towards something.
Well, supposed to, as in that's
the conventional.
That's what our conditioning has taught us.
And I'm not going to say that there's no value to that because I do think having something that you're moving in the direction of, whether you want to call it a goal or you want to call it a vision or you want to call it a desire even, can be really motivating and can be clarifying, especially when you don't know what to do. But if you hold that vision, it helps you figure out what to do to take steps toward that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we do in coaching is help clarify where do you want to go so that we can figure out how to get you there. So I'm not poo-pooing goals at all. But I do absolutely think that there are phases in life when maybe you're in almost like a pause
like
between
seasonal,
goals.
right? Like life is seasonal and cyclical. And sometimes you're in a winter.
There's value to that.
Well, yes. That's why we have seasons, is because they each serve a purpose.
Exactly. And sometimes you have to almost wait for the next batch of desires or goals to just reveal themselves to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that might look like feeling a little bit directionless for a while. Okay, so I achieved some things that I wanted to achieve, and now I don't really know what's next. You could just choose things, but that's not necessarily going to come from a really deep intentional place. And it's not even necessarily going to be that motivating if you're just choosing it because you feel like I should have a goal. If you wait in that weird
interstitial.
Yeah, like that place. Amorphous time where you don't really know what's next. Usually, if you give it a little bit of space, some desire is going to start to bubble up inside of you, because that's the nature of being a human. Is you're going to have more desires.
You're going to get bored.
Yeah, and great. And what a gift to give yourself time to get bored. How many of us even remember what it feels like to get bored?
So I mean, obviously this has a lot to do with like people's discomfort with feminine energy.
Absolutely.
Right. Like if we're conditioned and programmed to be in like masculine, achieving, forcing, striving, pushing, metrics, goals, measuring our progress by, milestones and numbers and that kind of stuff, then we get pretty uncomfortable when we're just in a flow state, when we're being, not doing. And so I think if we're going to like come up with a few filter questions for like, all right, I feel aimless and directionless. Is this a problem or not? I think one of the filter questions is, okay, is in terms of like, is my discomfort with this healthy or unhealthy? Like, is my discomfort like indicative of me needing a goal, or is it indicative of the fact that I need to like detox from my addiction to productivity or my compulsion to achieve? I think one of the filter questions can be like, how much historically has my identity been wrapped up in achievement? And if you're answering that question, you're like, it's kind of a lot, then I think that's a huge indication that you might be being asked by the universe, by whoever, whatever, by life itself, to get comfortable with being. For a period of time, get comfortable with not having anything set or anything that you have to do, and just like allow yourself to live and explore. I think that's a good filter question. How much of my identity has historically been wrapped up in a need to achieve or a need to be productive?
Yep. Because if you're raising your hand, you're like, ooh, that's definitely been me, then you probably can't even remember a time when you didn't have a goal or 17 goals that you were simultaneously trying to achieve. And it's going to feel extra uncomfortable to you to not try to force yourself to have a new goal for a little while. But there's going to be a lot of personal growth that can happen in there. And you're going to figure out a lot about yourself and what you truly, truly want if you don't force it. If you wait for desires to come up organically instead of deciding, I should be moving towards something, so let me go for the next promotion, or let me try to lose a few pounds, or just choose something that feels a little bit more surface level in the name of progress, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I also think it might be valuable to think about, or to ask yourself, how long have I been feeling directionless?
Yeah, for sure.
If you've been feeling directionless for years,
that might be a problem.
That's probably more of a chronic state that you've found yourself in. And a goal might be, or a vision, or really honing in on your desires might be the catalyst you need to finally figure out what is going to move me out of this long-term state of directionlessness. If this feels like a new sensation to you, then
you might need to lean into it.
Yeah, you might need to give it a little space to breathe and see what comes out of this. I've never experienced this before.
Yeah, years of aimlessness and directionless is stagnation. So we're not advocating for stagnation. But if you're not super familiar with feeling aimless or directionless, that's a huge indication that you probably need to lean in to that sensation and like get accustomed and comfortable to not having goals. Also, let me just clarify. I think that we're often thinking about this in a very black or white kind of binary, where it's like we're either doing and we're productive or we're achieving, or we have no goals and we're a sloth.
Right.
And that's not how I see feminine energy, or I see like, the act of just like choosing not to have any goals. I see it as like, okay, I'm going to just follow my curiosity. I'm going to engage with what sparks joy. And I'm not going to have any goals around it. I'm not going to have any metrics or measurable milestones that I'm looking to achieve. But like, I might just try shit, right? Like I might just, I've always wanted to try Pilates. I think I'm going to go take a Pilates class. Why the hell not? Like I have always been wanting to redo my garden out back. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to redo my garden. Like,
not with the intent of becoming a gardener.
Not because it's a goal of mine to learn how to grow cucumbers, but because it just feels fun to like mess around in the dirt. Like, I think that you can have a very playful, curious, exploratory, energetic relationship to not having goals. And I think that sometimes doesn't compute in people's minds. They think that if you have goals, that's when you're in a state of like energy and getting shit done and like, I don't know, like accomplishing things. And I'm like, I think that you can feel really energetic and really inspired while also having zero goals.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to your point that it's not a binary of having goals and being productive and doing all the things or being a sloth.
Yeah.
Not having active goals at this moment doesn't mean you're not still maintaining the things that are already working really well. So if you've already achieved a state of contentment in your relationships, or you've already worked your way into a job that feels really good, and you don't necessarily need to make any big changes, or it's perfectly fine for the stage of life that you're in. It doesn't mean if you give up on your goals, you just half-ass it. It means you have the fact that you're at a place where you don't feel a strong desire to make any big changes means some stuff's going pretty good. And you can bask in that. You can, and even if it's not perfect, right? It's like, this is good for now. This is fine for now. There's a maintaining, there's an energy of maintenance, and there's an energy of enjoying that is harder to feel when you are in striving mode. So when you're focused on, okay, but I want this and I don't have it yet, it's a little harder to have that pure contentment for where you are right now. But if you release goals for a little while and just say, I'm just going to live day to day. I'm just going to enjoy the things that are going well in my life. There's a real satisfaction that can come from that. And at some point you can trust you're going to want something more or something different. You're going to want, I promise you, you will not get stuck in not having anything to move toward because you are a human, and because no matter how good it gets, we always want more. We always want better. So you can let that come to you in time, but you do not have to force that. And sometimes it feels really good to just wake up in any given day and say, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do today. I'm going to go to my job. I'm going to do the things I've always done. And I'm just going to enjoy the spaciousness of not trying to add a bunch more in at this point.
I also want to add that I think there's a difference between a subtle difference, but an important difference between having goals and having just intentions. And I think if you're not super comfortable and you want to ease into not having goals, set some intentions. Intentions are like, I think they're a more feminine way of thinking about quote unquote achieving things or accomplishing things. It's just, you know what? By the end of this year, I'd like to have written a short story. But you're not like, okay, I'm going to sit down Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I'm going to write 100 words per day for 30 minutes at a time. That's like a goal, right? Those are metrics and milestones. Like, I think having like a more loose set of intentions, it can be completely fine. That's where I feel like I'm at right now. Personally,
Same, actually.
I'm not completely without goals. I don't know that it's ever possible to be like literally completely without any goals in your entire life. I definitely have some goals. Like Kristen and I have some intentions and goals that around Clarity on Fire, and that some things we want to check off the list in the coming months. But like, in terms of like my overarching career, I have no goals. Do you?
No,
I have none.
No.
I don't even care. And will I ever again? Maybe. I don't know. I don't care.
I can't speak to my, 55-year-old self. I have no idea what she's going to want.
Not my business. Truly none of my business.
Don't care right now.
Have you seen, okay, by the way, just, I'm going to have to send you some of these videos. There's a girl on social media, on Instagram and TikTok that I love called, her name is Maddie Mitchell. And she makes me feel so old because she's 25, but she is our kind of person because she was an English major. And so she has a huge vocabulary and she's super snarky and really sarcastic. And I just love her sense of humor. And she makes these lists. And one of her recurring lists that she makes is things that are none of my business. And I love, like, she cracks me up because she'll put things on there like how red my face is. It's none of my business. Like, I don't need to know that. Like, don't point it out to me.
Oh, that's funny.
And so I'm like, one of the things that's none of my business is my career trajectory, like in 20 years or in 10 years. It's truly none of my business. I don't need to know that. Like, who cares? So I don't have like any super overarching like goals. Like, I mean, I want to move, right? Like I have, but is it a goal or is it just like my intent is to do this and it will happen? And then like, I mean, at some point I intend to like get married and have kids and like, but I'm not like, okay, that will happen by this month. And then like, that's not how I'm approaching my life right now. So I think it's okay to have intentions and not need to nail it down necessarily. No, unless this doesn't apply to dating. In certain instances, this does not apply to dating because what I don't want someone to just hear is that it's okay to date someone who won't nail things down.
Oh, well,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You have to be on the same page.
You like vague intentions don't count in dating. You need explicit like commitment and like, this is what I am looking for out of a partnership. And this is the timeline upon which I would like to do. That is important to get clear on. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for vague intentions in every single area of life where transparency is key. Okay.
Yes, valid. I know we've also, and this is kind of a different conversation, but I think there's an overlap here. We've talked in many podcasts before about this idea of manifesting. And I was recently, which is not the same as goals, but it's still kind of putting out there what you want to happen. So I feel like there's you create change in your life and you also manifest change in your life, and they kind of work hand in hand.
You co-create.
Yeah,
with the universe.
Exactly.
So you can just tell the universe, here's my intentions. If you want them to happen, see it through.
And I recently heard someone talking about how people are either specific manifestors or non-specific manifestors. And
I already hate this, but continue.
No, but
I don't like filing it into two categories as if that's
I think this is like a spectrum, just like anything else.
I'm sure.
Right? But some people, it feels really good and it works really well for them to get super clear on what they want. So I want to...
This is probably related to your human design, but I don't know enough about human design.
Probably is, but I also don't know enough about human design. It's probably something in one of your charts that you can read and figure this out. But I think some people just in general get more energized by specifics. So when they're like, oh, I want to manifest, or I want to set a goal, or I want a vision, or I want this change in my life. And they like to really think about all the specifics of what that's going to look like. And that motivates them. And other people, like for me, that's not me. I always want to be like, if I want to make it, if I want to move, or if I want a new career, I don't necessarily need to think about what all those specifics are going to look like. I just want to think about how it's going to make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
So am I going to feel more free? Am I going to feel more vibrant? Am I going to feel more connected?
Mm-hmm.
And that actually works a lot better for me. So it's not even really a goal. It's like, I want more of this feeling, or I want more of this experience in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody would call that a goal. But I think it is more of an intention. I think it's more of a, I want to generally move in this direction, but I'm going to let some of the specifics reveal themselves to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let those unfold as I go.
Mm-hmm.
So if goals don't resonate with you, maybe you want to focus more on the quote unquote non-specific feelings or experiences or outcomes without bogging yourself down with, well, but what is that going to mean? And how many years from now is that going to be? And do I need to check all these things off the list before I get to that state?
I think that having goals is a very adult thing. And kids don't have goals.
Kids only have goals because teachers make them have goals in school.
But I mean, like, their natural state
no, that's not their natural inclination.
Present, and they're like playing and they're exploring and they're doing what feels good in the moment. And they're very active and they've got a lot going on, but they don't have goals. And I'm like, I think a lot of us could probably benefit from reconnecting with that energy and that spirit, that like childlike spirit of playfulness. I honestly think that that's kind of the opposite of having goals. Is like, it's not doing nothing, it's being playful.
And sometimes we have to be adults, that's fine. But most of us don't ever reconnect with that childlike playfulness of just, what do I feel like doing right now? What would be exciting? What would be fun? What do I want to dive into? And kids are not like, I want to play with this particular toy because I want to become an expert in
ninja warfare.
It just feels good. It's fun. And then sometimes kids become real experts in things. I remember I had I babysat a kid way back in high school and college who loved cars and like everything about cars and automobiles. And he wasn't trying to become an expert, but he knows more than cars, or he did as the 12-year-old or however old he was, than most adults I know. So his passion, his enthusiasm, his excitement naturally led him to what could be considered a goal. But he sure didn't have a goal. He wasn't like, I want to become a mechanic one day, and so I better start now.
Gotta get it in.
Get my expertise in now. No, he just was fascinated. And so sometimes bringing that playfulness in, bringing that lack of goal setting in, can lead you into outcomes that
eventually translate to goals.
Exactly. Without you even having to do the hard lifting of true goal setting.
And that is the dance of masculine and feminine energy. They both serve a purpose. So I am going to say that like that might not what we just said at some point is going to apply to everybody. Like everyone goes through phases and seasons where you probably need to have goals. And then you go through seasons where you probably need to play and explore and just be and flow. And it also depends on how you're wired too. If you're naturally like a really masculine person and you have a ton of masculine energy, then you probably don't need as many of those, or are going to gravitate toward as many of those phases of like not having goals and just playing and exploring. Even though at some point you will need it, and it will be hard for you to give yourself that because you're going to be so uncomfortable with it. But I feel like if you're someone who's wired in a more feminine way, you kind of need to live like that more often than the world often allows. And so carving that space out is so important. And so we're going to transition back to the number 2 on the list, which is coaching, because the thought I'm having right now is that what's beautiful about coaching is that people come to us for both of these reasons. Like, I don't have any goals and I feel aimless and I felt directionless for years and I really need a goal and I need a vision. And there is a good chunk of people who also come to us because they're like, I'm so tired of having goals and I'm so tired of like achieving and I just want to learn how to like be and enjoy my life. And I would like to like really be able to become someone who can play and explore. And I feel like I've been caught up in being a burnt out adult for so long. Like, I really want to take a sabbatical, but I'm scared. What if I, all the thoughts and fears, like, what if I stop working for a few months and then I can't get back into the workforce? Like, I have coached around both of those scenarios on every end of the spectrum. And that's
it's really about balancing your masculine and feminine energy and determining
which doesn't mean 50-50.
No, your unique balance.
Yeah.
Every person has a step point that feels really good for them. And it's also about honoring the phase of life that you're in.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of coaching, especially in, we've got programs, we've got things that you can work yourself through for specific outcomes. But the beauty of coaching with one of us is it's completely tailored. Yes, we have content we bring you, we walk you throughout the process, but it's completely tailored to your experience and what you need. So if you come to us and say, I have too many goals, I'm stressing myself out with all my goals, I probably need to take a step back and reevaluate, do I even want these things? And am I pursuing them for the right reasons?
Yeah.
Then we'll go into that with you, trust.
Yeah.
And if you come to us and maybe you are one of those people who has felt aimless for years and you're like, I don't even know what I want. I know it's not this because I'm not very happy on a daily basis, but I don't know what I would even do instead or what's wrong, why I'm not happy. Maybe I do need to get some clarification of what I want. Maybe I do need to set some goals or get more clear intentions. We got you. We got you. So it doesn't really matter where you are on that spectrum. Coaching will meet you where you're at.
And the process is the same. That's what I love. Is that it's going to take you through the same process.
How does that work? Trust me,
it does, because you have to start in the same place, no matter where you are. When you are confused and you don't know what to do, which is. You can be confused about, I don't even know what goals to set, or I have too many goals and I don't even know what to pick. If you're confused and you need clarity, you got to start in the same place. Like, you have to start with getting clear on like, what's blocking me? What fears and beliefs do I have going on? What is my current programming? And like, how is it that potentially getting in the way of me understanding and getting clear on who am I and what do I want and what feels good to me? And then we can move on from there. There's a whole process, which I'm not going to get into right now, which is something we can talk to you more about in depth.
But I will say, related to the whole conversation we've been having, one of the steps that we get into with every single client is we do a deep dive into what are your true desires.
Yeah.
The things you really want, not the things you think you should want or that you've always wanted, but you've never really questioned, or that
your value system
spouse wants for you or that your parents want for you. Like it, and that alone will help us figure out a lot of what goals should you be setting or what goals can we just completely toss out the window because they have no relation to what you truly want.
And then critically, we're going to hold you accountable for whatever it is you need to do or undo. We're going to help you do it or not do it. And we're going to
so much more valuable than I think we even ever.
I'm just thinking about like clients I have that are on the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Like, I have one client who has felt aimless and directionless for a long time, and she's finally committed to like writing a novel, which is really scary, but she really wants to do it and has a high desire to do it, and it just feels scary. And so we just came up with like a plan for like, okay, 3 times a week we're going to sit down, we're going to write. I'm going to hold you accountable to doing it. Like, she's working actively toward a goal. And then I have another client who very specifically has been addicted to productivity and has burnt herself out and nearly killed herself. And I'm not exaggerating, like, with how hard she's, how much she's put herself, her mind, and her body through when it comes to being productive and being a workhorse. And one of the things that we had to work on was literally like her ability to just sit still and do nothing, and how hard that was for her. Literally, we would set a timer and like, just that would be her homework, would literally be to sit still and not do anything. And that was a hard task for her. and really, I mean, worthwhile, obviously, but like no matter what your goals are or aren't, you need to be held accountable, and you also need to be able to have someone to process what comes up when you sit down to do or not do whatever it is you're supposed to be doing or not doing, because you're going to have feelings. You're going to have all of these feelings and fears and thoughts come up when you're sitting down to do nothing and you think you should be doing something.
You sit down to write your novel.
And you have all these, criticisms coming up about, oh, I'm not good at this, or like, this is so hard. Like, that's when we would stop if we were alone. If we have someone who's holding us accountable, we're going to keep going, because that person's going to kind of hold space and hold a container for us to continue to do it, even though it's challenging.
And not just hold you accountable, but like you said, be able to process what's come up.
Yeah.
Any friend could hold you accountable, could text you and say,
yeah, did you do that?
Write your thing? Did you write 3 times a week? But they're not going to necessarily know what to do when you say, I tried and I got all up in my head and I completely shut myself down. I don't know how to process that.
Let's talk about that.
Great. We can help you through that.
That's where the rubber really meets the road. I think is like, that's where true transformation happens, is when you go to do something and to implement something. I should say stop doing, because it's not always about doing. It's sometimes literally about not doing anything. But when we go to implement whatever it is that we've decided we need to do, again, I can't stop saying do, because it's like kind of a core verb. Yeah, whatever. Experience. I don't even know where I was going with that, but whatever. You need somebody to walk you through. There's a reason you haven't been doing it, or there's a reason you've been avoiding the thing that you, on some level, need to experience. And so when you actually sit down to experience it. Oh, I was saying that's where the transformation really happens.
For sure.
Is when you allow yourself to sit in the discomfort of doing the thing or not doing the thing, and allowing yourself to like breathe through the discomfort of that. That's like, I mean, it's going to sound dramatic, but that's literally like kind of like giving birth to a new person. Like, I'm giving birth to a new person who can do nothing and be okay with it. But birth is hard and it's painful and it's like messy, literally and figuratively. And that's kind of what, I mean, again, not to be corny AF, but like that is what we do, is like there's like a midwifery about it.
Absolutely.
Of like, okay, well, we're here to make sure that you don't die in childbirth, you know?
We are emotional and spiritual midwives.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what we like. If you're going to become a new version of yourself, it's going to require some level of discomfort, pain, even, and emotion and shedding of old layers. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be very worthwhile, but it's going to be challenging at times. And you are very likely to quit at that point if you don't have someone midwifing.
Yeah, you don't have to do it alone. And I would argue you probably maybe you even shouldn't do it alone. You don't want to give birth alone.
It's even hard to get to that point by yourself anyway. Like, it's hard to even get to the point where you're clear enough about what you should or shouldn't be doing anymore to, you know what I, like, even that's almost impossible to do on your own.
Yeah. The clarifying work first, and then the actual implementation, and then the processing of the implementation. I mean,
it's almost impossible to do all of that by yourself. So that's why this whole profession exists and why we do it and why I really like it, is because it never ultimately gets old helping someone go through that process. I really like the process of seeing someone get on the other side of that discomfort. And it always happens. Like, inevitably, everyone reaches a turning point where the thing that they thought they couldn't do, and literally sometimes it's just sit still, like they can do. And they feel so free. And sometimes the freedom is, oh my God, I'm like not stuck anymore. And I have all this energy and momentum, and I'm like writing, or I'm being creative, or I have a new job. And that feels amazing. Like, ultimately, there's always a corner that gets turned and someone feels lighter and freer, and they feel like they, got to the other side of that painful birthing process. And I love that part. And that's kind of why I do it, is I like getting people to that part. But it's going to be hard sometimes. It's also fun.
It is. It's not, I mean, I make it
it's not a
hard
slog.
Work. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of, you should hear our coaching sessions. There's a lot of laughter. I mean, there's tears sometimes. There's like
there's
a whole range of emotions.
The whole range of human experience happens.
There's a lot of celebrations that we get to go through with people when they break through things that they didn't think that they could get to. So it's hard sometimes. It's really rewarding.
Someone told me the other day that she was like, I wouldn't have the business that I have now. I wouldn't be the kind of parent to my children that I am now if I had not like gone through that process. And I'm like, well, thank you. Because that just validated why I've spent like literally actually a third of my entire life, the vast majority of my adult life, and a third of my actual time here on the planet, literally just doing this.
Yeah.
Because
there are people that wouldn't exist. I mean, I've coached people around
the planet.
I've coached people around the decision of, do I want to be a parent or not?
Yes.
And the ones who decided they did now have little tiny humans that maybe wouldn't have existed. So there's life-changing transformation that can happen when you put this work in for yourself. Because we're just the guide. I mean, you're doing the work. You're changing your life. We're just helping you figure out, what do you even want to change, and make sure
you do
the transformation actually happens.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully sticks too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And again, not to like be a dead horse, but like a third of your entire life doing something means that you must be pretty good at it. And
especially
have
for Rachel and I, who are historically terrible at keeping jobs for long.
Oh my God. Never had another job for more than 18 months.
Yeah. We quit
doing this for 12 years.
So this is a true testament to the fact that we love this work and we know what we're doing.
I really do though. Like, you can trust that you can like, isn't that nice? So you can like take the thought out of it and just show up and be like, no, like, she knows because I'm not the first person she's done this for. I won't be the last. So like, can I just like sort of like put my, like check out in a good way?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like check your worries at the door.
Second guessing questions out the window for a while.
I keep trying to convince Joseph of that. Cause he like needs coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I literally have told him, you have absolutely no idea like who you're talking to right now. I was like, you're talking to like truly a world renowned. I told him that.
But you also can't coach him, So it's the most frustrating thing.
It's so frustrating because I'm like, I'm so good at this. And like, I've been doing this for like literally 12 years. And you have access to one of like the best coaches you could probably find for free. And you are not taking full advantage of it. And it's just so frustrating.
I know. I love it when my husband's like, are you asking me coaching questions? I just want you to tell me what you think I should do. And I'm like, you don't even know. I could help you so much more if you let me use my coaching, but it just doesn't. It doesn't work on your people.
Well, I'm going to keep doing it just subtly and slightly.
I mean, of course,
on the DL.
And when he doesn't recognize what's happening, it works. But
right? I know. It's just so
it is funny. But I will say my little brother has been utilizing more true coaching.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he's been calling me up and be like, can you just help me through something right now? And I'm like, let's go. So he's open. So he's taking advantage of the resources within his own family.
I mean, truly.
And you know what? He is thriving right now. I won't give Rachel updates after we stop recording because I like to always give her updates on my brother. But he's doing great right now. He is achieving goals.
Wow. I'm really proud of him.
Yeah, he is.
The power of coaching.
He is transforming himself and his life right now.
Oh, cool. I'm so happy to hear that. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's young and he has his whole life ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of going through a quarter life situation. So, okay. Well, I mean, we don't need to talk about this anymore. This has been what an episode. We
went all
probably too long, but I don't care.
Well, you missed us last week, so you get a little extra this week.
Sure. Yeah, that's how that works. So again, if you want to undergo some kind of transformation in your life, and you don't even have to know what it is. That's the great thing. You don't have to know what you want. You can have no idea what you want. You can have no idea if you even have goals. You can have no idea if you even should have goals.
I know. I love when people come to coaching and they're like, I need to figure out what I want first before I come to coaching so I make the most out of it. And I'm like,
nope, that's why you're here, is to figure that out.
if you do that, we're going to probably change them anyway.
Yeah, go ahead and try and then wait 6 months and then come back here and then we'll just change your mind after a month. So like, don't bother. We'll just figure it out now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, fill out the form. We will talk to you about it. Okay. And let us know, like, whatever you feel like we need to know in that form. And one of us will reach out within a day or two to schedule a chat with you. And we will have a very we'll have a chat about like where you're at and what are you like, whether or not we feel like this would be a good fit. And I promise you, I'll know because I've done this so many times. I'll know if you're a good fit for our process. And if you're not, I'm going to tell you.
And we'll give you more insight into the process itself and to the different options. And so you'll have a lot of clarity around what the possibilities are and what would make sense for you. So you don't have to know that right now. All you have to know right now is that I'm ready to go through a transformation. It feels like I'm ready to commit the time, the energy, the financial resources toward this, but I don't have to know 100% that this is you don't have to, you're not signing up and committing with that form. You're signing up to say, I'm really seriously considering this. And I would be ready to take this on if it's the right thing. That's the mindset we want you to have just to fill out the form. And then we'll clarify together if this is the right thing and the right time.
Go back and listen to some normal person episodes. If you're not sure, I'm like, those are people we've worked with who are literally telling, their story and what they worked on. And if you can relate to any of that, I promise you it'll work for you too. So, okay. ClarityOnFire.com/coaching. We will be very excited to talk to some of you. And we will be back next week. Originally, it was going to be, so this month is just screwy. Okay. Originally, it was going to be an expert interview, but I haven't nailed, I was talking to someone and then that kind of fell off the map. And I'm like, the universe is literally just like, don't do anything. So I'm going to try to get that expert on the hook for May. But I think we're just going to do another message from the universe because, honestly, I need another one. And I haven't been doing them back-to-back months, but whatever. It's my podcast. I'll do what the frick I want.
And I think
if I want to give you a message from the universe, I will.
And I have to say, it seems like a lot of you love them because we get a lot of feedback on our messages from the universe.
I love them.
So I don't think you're going to be upset to get another message a month apart.
So we'll be back with an unexpected, delightful additional message from the universe for the month of April next Friday.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Bye.